How's it going everyone? Welcome back once again to Switchstars and to another review. My name's Luke and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at a quirky little title called Minabo, a game in which you stroll through the life of a turnip person making friends, enemies and a ton of little turnip babies. And this one is definitely one for all you wholesome game fans out there, but is it actually any good? Well, drop a like, hit that subscribe button for more Switch reviews and content, and let's find out. So when it comes to an overarching story in Minabo, in all honesty there isn't one, at least not in the traditional sense, but the game essentially follows the life cycle of a turnip person whose experiences and personality are shaped through the player's actions. Throughout the span of around 80 or so turnip years, you'll be meeting new turnip personalities, each of which could become friends, enemies or even lovers. And at the end of it all, you'll then return to your roots. That is to say, you'll die and become compost from which new turnip folk will spring. But your life story is summarised in a neat little caption, accompanied by screenshots of your escapades. This gameplay loop essentially means that a new story is written with each new playthrough, and I thought that this was quite a unique way of approaching it and adding in story-like elements without actually having to create a fixed scenario. However, I also think that due to your actions being somewhat limited, this in turn affects the total number of possible outcomes, but overall I thought the end of life summary was a very cool little feature. Now, gameplay wise, Minabo was pitched to me as being a combination of The Sims and Cozy Grove, and in a way it is, but after spending a couple of hours with the game and playing through a few different life cycles, I have to say it turned out to be a little different from what I was expecting. Now, the game has two game modes, the first being a 25 level challenge mode with each scenario featuring a different set of objectives to complete, and the second a free play mode with no set objectives other than living for as long as possible. But the first few levels of challenge mode ease you in gently, acting as an introduction to the game's mechanics. These challenges include things like living to a certain age, having X number of pets, partners or children, making friends or enemies, or obtaining certain hats or items. And while the difficulty slowly ramps up as you work your way through them, especially with the introduction of a turnip eating mole, being a very casual player, things never become overly challenging, and I even felt like the game gave me a bit of a helping hand by making things easier after I failed them a couple of times. Regardless of the game mode though, the control scheme and gameplay mechanics remain the same and are extremely simple, making it an easy one to just pick up and play with only a few in-game prompts required to teach you everything you need to know. After sprouting from the soil as an infant turnip, you're taught to crawl by holding the B button, which automatically moves you forward, and at 1 year old you'll learn to walk and eventually run with multiple taps of the B button, but so far as movement goes, that's it. As you proceed forward though, so does the passage of time in line with your movement speed, and the seasons will change and you'll slowly age, as will those around you. And while I initially thought that the lack of free movement was a mistake on the developer's behalf, I quickly came to realise that it made perfect sense given the context of the game, as like with real life, you can never move backwards to correct any mistakes or missed interactions and must always push forwards. But move on through life too fast and you run the risk of leaving people behind, and this simple concept has been ingeniously implemented into the gameplay. Now, interactions in the game come in a few different forms, the first of them being the Sims-like aspect, whereby each character has 3 different bars to maintain, those being physical contact, intimacy and belonging, which in turn affect a 4th blue bar, which represents your life expectancy, with a white marker slowly creeping along it and ultimately resulting in death should it reach the end of the coloured section. The lower the levels of the other 3 bars though, the faster your life bar will drain, and so you need to keep them topped up by interacting with other turnips and animals, first selecting them with a thumbstick before pressing one of 3 buttons, each of which represents a different attribute, but the success rate of these interactions is determined by the red and green circular bars surrounding them, and failing interactions will drain your bars further. Now, I couldn't quite work out how these success rates were determined, but from what I can gather they slowly fill up over time, and so keeping yourself surrounded by other turnip people gives you multiple options for interactions. And these interactions not only impact on the meters and life bars of others, they also affect your relationships with them, with positive ones turning them from strangers to friends and eventually partners with which you can produce cute little turnip babies with, while failed interactions negatively impact your relationships. You're able to react to these failed interactions either positively, neutrally or negatively by, say, sticking a turnip finger up at them. But this can instantly turn lovers into enemies, so best to consider the impact of your actions before you decide to take them. Overall though, despite the RNG factor, this system works well and makes for a real juggling act when trying to maintain multiple relationships with the pressure of a turnip eating mole following you. But admittedly it is pretty simple, and after a few playthroughs some people may find that it becomes a little dull or repetitive. To supplement these social interactions though, there are also a few other encounters thrown into the mix to try and keep things interesting. You have animals to interact with, which instead of becoming friends can be taken on as pets and will follow you for a few short years before perishing. There are also items you can find which you're actually forced to use on people and can either increase or decrease the life expectancy of them, or in the case of potions and poisons, max it out or kill them instantly. And finally there are the hat wearing folk who you can play a simple game of rock paper scissors with to win the hat and add it to your collection. And each of these offers a different benefit when worn, such as reducing the rate at which bars drain or making all interactions succeed during a certain season. Like I said though, every turnip life must come to an end, and posthumous you're given a summary of your life and a photoreel of significant events of it, and if you complete all of the required challenges, you'll then unlock the next challenge level for you to attempt. The game's free life mode forgoes these challenges entirely, providing a randomly generated scenario for you to live through and gives you a chance to add any remaining hats you've yet to acquire to your collection. But from what I could tell in terms of gameplay, there are no significant differences between free life and challenge modes. All in all though, Minabo is a fun and wholesome little title, and with each life cycle lasting around 20 or 30 minutes each, it works perfectly as a time filler game. However, the simplicity of its mechanics are a bit of a double-edged sword, as although they're easy enough to get to grips with and make for a stress-free gameplay experience, this also means that you'll learn them quickly, and once you do, you'll pretty much have seen everything the game has to offer. The lack of any kind of leaderboard system for the free play mode also means there's very little in the way of replayability beyond collecting any hats that you've missed. And I think it would have been great to have also had some kind of big life-changing events for you to experience, which could have really made each playthrough feel much more unique. But overall, Minabo is a decent little chill-out title with some relaxing gameplay mechanics, and one which fans of wholesome titles will no doubt enjoy. So when it comes to the visuals then, the game is very reminiscent of those used in Cozy Grove, with a hand-painted art style which just oozes with charm, and I particularly like the way in which the background transformed throughout the seasons, as trees shed the leaves in the autumn and mushrooms and flowers sprung up from the ground in the summer. The character models were also a high point, with their appearances and features slowly transforming over time as they aged from sprightly young turnip children to shriveled up old turnip elders, and I also really liked how their expressions changed and reflected what kind of mood they were in. On the audio side, things are kept pretty simple. We get some decent sound effects and the turnip folk all talking Sims-like gibberish, with subtle changes made to the tones of the voices as they age and mature. But the game's music fits the gameplay perfectly and is as upbeat as you'd expect from a wholesome title, and all in all, great stuff on the audio and visual front. So in conclusion then, Minabo is a delightfully simple and utterly wholesome title, which I'm sure plenty of people will get a lot of enjoyment out of playing, and it's packed with charm and some wonderful visuals and incredibly cute turnip people for you to meet and interact with, which, despite never being able to understand a word they're saying, will no doubt capture your heart with the little turnipy bodies and make you sad to see them go once they return to the soil. It is, however, one of those games that is best played in short bursts, as the gameplay mechanics can become repetitive and it doesn't feel like a game that you should be rushing to complete. But if you're looking for a charming little time filler title and something to cheer you up on a rainy day, then Minabo will no doubt succeed in doing this. For a rating though, I'm going to be giving Minabo 4 out of 5 stars. A wonderful little chill out title this one, and well worth a play. With that said though, are you going to be picking up Minabo, raising your own little turnip person and ensuring it lives its life to the fullest? Let me know down below, and if you're a fan of wholesome titles, be sure to check out my video where I cover off 130 of the top casual, chill and wholesome titles on the Nintendo Switch. As always though, drop a like if you enjoyed this one, subscribe for more Switch reviews and content, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.